Say hello to the Book of Mormon. Ben Brantley of the New York Times says the Book of Mormon is the best musical of this century. Winner of 9 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. The Book of Mormon. Performances begin February 12th at Robinson Performance Hall. Visit CelebrityAttractions.com.
Good afternoon, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. Thursday, February the 7th. Top of the news today, I think, is Jeremy Hutchinson's filing in federal court. He's a former state senator who faces felony tax charges for using campaign money for personal expenses, and he's also been implicated but not charged in the larger public corruption scandal about money spent on state legislators by a giant nonprofit organization. In any case, he says the charges against him now should be dismissed because they were based on evidence improperly obtained by the FBI. He says a former girlfriend gave him some stuff that she'd taken from him, that they'd induced him into making statements against his interests by false promises of immunity. He says he did talk to the FBI about lobbyist Rusty Cranford and former state senator John Woods, both of whom who've been convicted of crimes, or at least Cranford's pleaded guilty. Woods has been convicted and gone to prison. He says he's done nothing wrong. A letter's gone out from his father, former Senator Tim Hutchinson, saying what a law-abiding person his son is and how badly the FBI had misbehaved in this case. The government will get a chance to respond. I suspect they will take some exception to what Hutchinson has laid out there. I do think it's interesting that he was hip deep in some unseemly looking things, even if they were not criminal. It's not the greatest basis for a defense, but he is entitled to constitutional rights, and he says his were violated in the course of the investigation. He said they've destroyed evidence taken from his laptop and other electronic devices. Well, at the Capitol today, there was an interesting hearing in a House Judiciary Committee this morning. The gun lobby wants to pass a resolution that declares that Arkansas is a carry-anywhere state. You don't need a permit to carry openly or carry concealed guns. This is, if so, they're trying to sort of bully this theory into practice. If they wanted to, they could pass a law that would make this clear. They say they don't need a law. They probably can't pass a law at this point. It would open up a whole lot of problems if suddenly we encouraged open carry by everybody anywhere. There were some strong objections today. They ran out of time before they could vote on the resolution. It'll come up again. Check social media, and you can look at Arkansas blog for a link so you can write your member of the Arkansas legislature and oppose Bob Ballinger's effort to roll back the minimum wage increase voted for by 68% of voters in November. He'd actually rolled back an increase passed a couple of years before as well. Ballinger makes a lot of money as a lawyer and a legislator, doesn't pay his taxes, doesn't pay his mortgages, but he thinks poor people make too much in Arkansas at about $9 an hour. I think your legislators ought to hear about this. Check it out. Interesting notice I found in looking through future events in Little Rock. Emmanuel Baptist Church, the big mega church out in West Little Rock, is going to have an event March the 1st. It's going to feature Governor Asa Hutchinson, a Republican, and Frank Scott Jr., nonpartisan mayor of Little Rock, although he's always claimed he was a Democrat, with a preacher, D.A. Horton. They're going to talk about race and faith. D.A. Horton is a megachurch pastor from California who, if you look on his website, some of the things he believes in, he doesn't believe in abortion, he thinks homosexuality is immoral, and he thinks women ought to be the servant, obedient followers of their husband's leadership. Well, I think in Little Rock some of those things might stir up a little opposition, if not with the governor. Be interested to hear what the mayor has to say about that. The mayor, by the way, finished his mayoral campaign more than $70,000 in the red. He's apparently out knocking on doors and ringing bells, trying to scare up more money. The scooter safety issue continues to bubble up. Good story in BBC today about another scooter death. Not a good story, sad story. In Austin, one of 1,500 scooter accidents in about the last year or so. Lime's trying desperately to hang on as a scooter provider in Little Rock. Met with downtown people yesterday about the ways they hope to improve safety, distribute some helmets, issue some warnings, do some things to try and make people use those things more safely on the sidewalk. I'm still intending to stay away from them. The 8th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals today upheld a lower court decision that said the city of Little Rock and the police chief bore no responsibility in the shooting death of Bobby Moore by police officer Josh Hastings. A federal court's returned a $400,000 verdict against Hastings, who's broke in the shooting of Moore. He was fired as a result of his actions that night during an investigation of a suspected car burglary. But the federal judge here said, and the 8th Circuit agreed, that they hadn't established a pattern of use of improper force by the Little Rock police or a pattern sufficient to constitute a constitutional violation of Bobby Moore's rights, and how well they trained and supervised Josh Hastings, although the opinion goes on at some length about what a sorry cop he was and numerous reasons why perhaps he should have been fired, but that didn't necessarily equal a violation of the young teenager whose life was taken. I will say this about the Little Rock police. Coincidentally, I had a first-hand experience yesterday with a careful use of deadly force by the Little Rock Police Department. They came upon some meth head squatters in a vacant house on my street, and one of them pulled a loaded .45 semi-automatic pistol on him. He didn't fire, and he was able to arrest the meth head without anybody being harmed. So my hat's off to the officer, Jason Stouffer, who managed that arrest calmly and quickly and without harm to anyone. Finally, this good news. Jim Parsons, a Gadfly in Northwest Arkansas, lives in Bella Vista, sues people all the time, kind of drive you crazy, but he's a vigorous defender of the Freedom of Information Act and against people who'd waste public money. He's filed a lawsuit, may not get anywhere, but he's right on principle that the state and federal government shouldn't be paying to clean up that dangerous burning dump in Northwest Arkansas that was operated for years by the Bella Vista Property Owners Association. He said they ought to pay for it for not running it right. Couldn't agree with him more. Don't know if the judge will, but good on Jim Parsons. And finally, this state senate is driving the train on who's going to be named to replace Arkansas statues in the Hall of Statuary in Washington, D.C. Looks like they arrived yesterday at Johnny Cash and Daisy Bates, familiar figures, and hard to argue with in a lot of ways, although it's interesting, the Republican leaders who are putting forward Daisy Bates now, she was not much well thought of in the 1950s in Little Rock, and actually there's sort of some simmering resentment in some quarters on her side of the fence, because maybe Little Rock 9 endured more than she did. She was certainly a courageous and effective figure, but the people who day to day underwent the real problems were the students who went to Central High School, and don't think we should forget that. Even if we can't put all 9 of them in the Capitol, we can remember them for that. Keep a close watch on this heart of mine and resist. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow. That was Johnny Cash, by the way, I was quoting.